Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cup of Three. My name is Ashley. I'm joined by my friend and co-host Mabel and fiance and co-host Agu. Welcome. I never know what to do right after that part. Welcome,
Also,
everyone.
You said Ashley. Like, is that how you pronounce it?
Oh, did I?
Ashley.
If I'm speaking Spanish, yes, and it sounds ridiculous.
Ashley.
Me llamo Ashley. Ugh, no. It's not a good Spanish. Anyways, welcome. We are, if this is your first time joining us, if this is your first time joining us, we're a podcast covering reality shows on love and relationships, currently covering Married at First Sight season 12. So today we're going to talk about episode 6, Defending Your Wife. That title really sums up a lot of what we saw. Yeah, so let's get into it. So we have a lot of big topics to get into, but I really would like to start first with Jacob and Haley because, you know, they're not getting as much screen time as other couples, so like they deserve some love too.
No one is.
Exactly.
So they have kind of had a rocky start. It feels like the chemistry really isn't working so far. Haley said things like something's missing for her. It seems like a lot too fast, too soon. And they've just had a couple of bumps. So first of all, like, what were your impressions of them, like, from the episode and how it feels like they're doing?
Jacob and Haley are not staying together. That's for sure. Like, that's a done
Calling
deal.
it?
I'm writing that off right now. I feel like I wanted to earlier, but like we've had the episode we did with Gabriella, like she was really rooting for them, and I was like, all right, I will hang in there for you, but no, that's not happening. It's just, it's not.
They're doomed.
Yeah, I think so. In the beginning, my concern was that Jacob wasn't going to be the best communicator in the world and was going to be a little bit more reserved and wait for her to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And it's actually turned out to be a little bit the opposite. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but he, like, their conversation, I think he did a really good job of explaining, like, okay, this is what happened. I haven't really had any communication from you since then. Like, how can we fix this? And from her side, I think I get she was trying to say she needs a little bit more time to adjust, and I understand that. But I think just that it's probably going to be their downfall in general. But yeah, that's my impression of them. What do you think, Mabel?
Yeah, I'm also getting that impression. Like, they're just taking it from two different angles. And neither angle is necessarily wrong. You know, Jacob, as he said it, went in as a marriage. This is, I'm giving my all. And Haley's, like, taking it slow, still deciding, kind of feeling it out. But I think that they're not really okay with the other person's approach. You know what I mean? Like, Jacob needs a little more security to have the, you know, confirmation that she likes him. Haley maybe wants to feel a little more like she might miss him, or she yearns for him a little more, and a little more of that want and kind of like chase a little bit before she decides to commit. And they're clashing right now because they don't like the other person's not meeting them where they want to be. And it just kind of feels like they're slowly starting to get just like about to be like an argument. You know, those like few seconds where you're like, all right, I can still be calm, but if you keep pushing me, I will blow up. Like, it feels like that right now.
This is a try me situation.
Right. What about you, Ashley?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that Haley regrets this whole thing. Every time she has described herself and talked about like why she wants to, you know, be married and everything. Thinking about that now, I'm like, oh, you're really maybe not the ideal person for this. Or you have to at least reset your expectations that like there's going to be some awkward parts. There's going to be some growing pains. You're going to have to be open-minded. Like, we talk about this every single season. Like, anyone who can go into this with complete openness and honesty about how they're feeling and the ability to kind of roll with the punches kind of a thing, they go a lot further than the people who are just like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, and then they just like all of their walls shoot up and they're just like inaccessible. And it feels like she's kind of trapping herself in that way. And I like it's going to be that self-fulfilled prophecy, which again we talk about every single season, where she's just like, I don't know, something feels missing, it's not right. Like it felt like she's saying this was a mistake, and I shouldn't say it. Yeah, well, because that's a very real thing to say. You can't back out from that. So I definitely don't have very high hopes for them. But
what about them sleeping together though?
I think she was being very honest, where she basically said she wasn't sure, but she wanted to see if that would make this, like, make her feel closer, make the relationship make sense to her.
This feels familiar.
I mean, that's exactly what Chris said, right? But everybody hates Chris. Never the best way. You know, I'm not going to defend Chris America. Don't worry.
Calm down, America. And our 24 listeners in Spain.
Ashley. But I think that, and then she also mentioned that like they were drinking heavily, so it makes me think that that's what the intention was, of like, all right, I'm not really feeling this, let's try this, we are married. And then, you know, they did that, and then she's like, oh yeah, no, this isn't for me.
Oh no.
Dang.
Like, you know, not necessarily that it's bad, but sometimes that could be confirmation that you're not into the person that way. So yeah, I think the best thing for her to do would be to try to cut it now. I feel like I say this every season, but that's not going to happen, and then it's gonna be a string Jacob along thing. So I have more thoughts, but I'll let Ashley. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know where I stand on the whole idea of like, you know, you're with your new spouse and you try to see if like kindling up whatever a physical relationship will help kind of start that chemistry for like your emotional relationship to start. I don't know. Maybe that's just not ever been my experience, but I feel like there has to be some emotional connection for that to like really, you know, work compatibility wise when it comes to physical stuff. So I just feel like that's only going to be a confirmation bias of just like, well, I tried to do this and that didn't work, and so what are we doing here, you know, kind of a thing. I think she kind of has this overall feeling of just like, I'm not comfortable, this isn't working for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it seems like, so I mean, there are partners who end up together that, you know, had like one night stands, right? They obviously didn't know each other, and then they turn out. But the difference here is that there's this massive expectation of marriage, and it's almost like, oh, if I have sex with the person, I'm gonna like them. Well, not necessarily. Yeah. And especially if you're trying to make that be the case, be like, oh, like, it's if this is gonna convince me, like, that's definitely not gonna work.
I know. I know.
Yeah. I kind of like was surprised the way she was describing it, because it felt like she made it sound like it's a guy she picked up at the bar, and she was like, hey, why not? You know, I was drunk. And I was like, oh gosh, this is your husband and you're on your honeymoon. And yeah.
I mean, another thing that came up with them though is that later Haley said that she wanted to go out for a girls' night. He's like, all right, cool. And later he goes down to the lobby or something and basically sees literally everyone hanging out without him, like every high schooler's worst nightmare. And they like saw him and ran around the corner or something. Like and that makes me feel like she's really not on board with the relationship. Like, that's a really messed up thing to do to anyone. And like that blew my mind. I was like, Haley, like do better. What do you couldn't even be conspicuous about it. You're in the lobby, like you don't think he's gonna come up on you and no one's gonna
Yeah.
see you? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it kind of gave me the impression that. So, the first thing I thought of was they were going to do some group activity. And then she just didn't tell him about it. And she's like, oh, no, it's just a girls' thing. I'm going to go catch up with all of them, but it's really like a group activity. And then she was like, hey, y'all, I'll catch up with you later. Go ahead of me. And then she just, like, ditched him. I don't know. It's just, that was pretty mean. You can't even stand to be around your partner anymore. It's just, you're so sick of him, and you're just like,
and not being able to just say like I need a minute, or like I need some time alone. Like this isn't like it's a totally normal thing if you are not used to being around someone all the time to need some alone time built into that. That's fine. But you have to bring it up, and you don't have to hide it. Like it's like having to go to the bathroom and trying to make up all these excuses, and like I have to take a call or something, and you're just like peeing, and it's like it's not a big deal, that's gonna happen. Like stop freaking out. You're making it weirder.
Exactly. And she's like been single for how many years now? Like it's totally okay to not be used to being in someone's life like this just yet. So just
that's it.
You just gotta talk.
I'm glad. Okay, I'm very happy you said that. I remembered what I was trying to say before I forgot. So I think Haley is reminding me a lot of Deanna and Greg, where Deanna was also single for quite a long time before this experiment. And the only difference I'm seeing so far, and it is early, is Greg constantly, like, that didn't stop him. He was still putting himself out there. And so much, like, I remember that season, I was like, oh, I don't think I would continue. Like, he's trying so hard. At what point do you just stop and say, you know, if it's not good for you, that's fine. Like, this isn't I don't need to force you into this. And I think Jacob is a little bit more like, I guess like me or like most people would handle that situation, where if you're getting rejected, micro rejected constantly, at a certain point you just go, well then forget you then. And like Greg Deanna, like, I mean, by like episode 7, he was still like trying, you know? And I'm sure that it was a different dynamic. I'm sure it wasn't exactly the same, but I think that's like, I could see if he continued and was still trying, was still being very sweet, was just being nonstop sweet. And like, I could see her opening up, because I do think it's a timing thing. Like, I don't think my initial thought was she didn't like him because there wasn't a physical attraction there. I'm starting to think there's less of that, and I think it's just she's been single for 7 years or however long. She just needs time to adjust to being next to someone. I mean, just living that long alone, it's a big adjustment to go from that to having someone around you. And he's a quirky person, and that's fine, but it's even more of an adjustment, right? So I think, weirdly, like you said, like, yes, she's not prepared for this, but a lot of the couples that we've seen, some of which have been successful, aren't. But if one of the people in the relationship is willing to constantly put themselves out there, constantly, even though they get rejected, even though they get pushed back, they still try to be there and try to be open and loving and whatnot. So, and I think he's looking at this from his programmer, computer science point of view, like, okay, here's the problem. How do we fix it, and how do we iterate? And like, it's like, that's not the situation here. Like, you're gonna have to constantly try and then get rejected. Like, that's what this is gonna turn into. And if you're not okay with that, it's probably not gonna work out, you know? So
But at the same time, though, I think that his approach being very like logical and, you know, if this happens, then this, that actually helps a lot in his communication when there is an issue. Like, I agree that
Sure.
there's limits to how far that carries him, but, you know, he has sort of the approach in these really like touchy conversations that at least I personally strive for when like there's something I'm really upset about but need to talk about. Like, the more level that you can stay, the more like kind of in control of your emotions, like not raising your voice, like speaking just like I'm speaking now but talking about really hard stuff. That's the place where you can actually get information across the table and it's not attached to so much emotion. And I think that at least creates a little bit more of a level playing field where if she were to like scream at him, I feel like he would still keep that level approach, and you're just not going to keep screaming at someone who's talking to you evenly. Like, it diffuses the situation constantly because it brings it back to this like baseline. And so I feel like that part of it, of his communication, is really good. But I agree. I think I don't know if he's that person that can just be like, okay, I understand that there is this problem. There is this need of mine that isn't being met, that she's not receptive to whatever I'm trying to do, however I'm trying to connect with her. And I'm going to I'm going to respect her boundaries. I'm not going to, you know, be a weirdo, but like I will keep trying and be available. I'm not sure he's that person. And I think his patience will run out after like that continuing to be an issue after he's raised it up, because that's that black and white thinking of like, well, I said this was a problem, they didn't do anything about it, therefore. And then when you can't think that way. You just can't. Like, you're gonna be done in like a matter of weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, even the previews kind of showed that, right?
Yeah.
There's this argument that it looks like they're in the apartment, and he keeps saying it's not going to work out if we keep doing this. This isn't going to work out. We're doomed. We're, you know, but he keeps using some sort of like equation way to say it. Like, this is not
we're
the
like on a trajectory or something like that.
something.
According to my calculations.
Actually,
Yeah. I think they just both need to get out of their heads a little bit and also like just reset expectations of what does success look like. And that definition can be changing day to day. Like, it could be today the expectations are that we're going to just spend, you know, a couple hours making dinner together and hanging out, and the rest of the day we're going to do our own thing. And then tomorrow maybe it's that and we're going to have a glass of wine and talk for a little while, or we're going to go for a walk and hold hands. And that's it. And just go from there. Like, just ease into it, get used to each other, get used to being around this person, actually get to know them. Like, maybe take sex off the table if that's causing problems or it doesn't feel natural. Fine. Take it off. But like, put in the effort to actually understand who this person is so you can make an informed decision. You know, it's just, it's really frustrating to see everyone like be so flighty in the beginning, you know, because it's like, it's understandable, but it's also like, you signed up for this, so let's give it a fair shot.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of like some of the couples, I guess like both ends are saying like it's doomed to fail right now, right? It's a week. And some of the couples are like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Again, it's a week.
You are right.
It's your honeymoon week. Yeah, you're next to
right, of all things.
You're next to I was gonna say beautiful views. Is that a thing in Vegas? Vegas views are just meh, right?
Casinos.
Casino views.
A lot of fountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, mountains.
I wonder if, so like the more we watch this, the more I start to realize, like, I think this is a saying where they like say fighters make fights, not styles make fights. That's it. Not
Styles
matchups.
make fights?
So I think basically being like, you see two different people and you're like, oh, this guy is bigger and has a larger I'm going to sound very unofficial, but like has longer arms so he can swing farther. And it's like,
Look at the arms on that man.
Yeah.
So long.
I just view like disproportionate, like
all the way to the floor, like a gorilla.
I mean, there's some basketball players who got some like 7-foot wingspans, and they're like 6'5". It's like, or something crazy like that. Like seriously, it's weird.
Their
I
arms
think I
are
get what you
longer
mean,
than they
though,
are
like-
tall.
Or there's some soccer players who have like significantly larger butts, which like weirdly helps them have a lower center of gravity, which helps them in their soccer. If
I'm
anyone
failing to
watches
see how
soccer,
this connects to it.
Hazard, I think his name. He's a Belgian player. Large butt, great soccer player because of it. Sounds weird saying it, but yeah.
Okay.
it's okay. Keep going. We're enjoying this.
But I
We're talking
think
about Married at First Sight, right?
What are we talking about?
cut to
That's
like
right.
everyone listening to this, like, why is he still on this thing? Get this man out of here. But I think, like it's easy, and she's definitely messed up with the whole Mean Girls thing of I'm not going to tell you that I'm hanging out with a. But I think it's overall she's not wrong, and there is like, if she was matched with a different person, that person would be the Greg to her Deanna, where that person would constantly buy her flowers and write her poetic poems and stuff. Just be like overly romantic, so that to prove that that person's still into her, and then she'll push him away, but then he continues. And on Jacob's side, I think there's some people that he would be matched with where he could be like this, and like you said, he's a great communicator. I'm starting to warm up to like just his way of viewing things, and I think certain people would find that very attractive. It's just them together is the problem. And like, I get how like there's no way the judges could have anticipated this. It's one of those
The judges.
experts. The experts could have anticipated this. So even though it's probably going to be a fail, I think it's just a personality thing that's not gonna line up. And listeners and people who are watching this, please have I don't think she's the bad person in this. I think she's just a different perspective. Like, I've already seen some comments like talking about some really mean things with her, and it's like, this is a lot. Like, you just met this person 4 days ago. Now you, like you said, there's this expectation of stuff. You've been single for 7 years. Like, that's a lot, you know. I haven't been single for 7 years, but I imagine I would view things very differently. You know, it's just so. Have mercy on them, listeners. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all. That's all I got on them. Do you guys? Am I the only one? Do you guys think they're staying together? Potentially, could make it work, or
No.
I'm seeing a lot of nodding
No.
no's.
I don't see it. I was hopeful in the start with them, but it doesn't seem like their trajectory, as Jacob would say,
Trajectory.
will work out.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's hop over to Brianna and Vincent. There was some conversation around this word that just keeps coming up. It came up 1,000 times in their marriage ceremony.
Bossy.
That Brianna is Brossy? Nope. Bossy.
Brossy.
I was saying
We're
Brianna,
gonna
and
create
then
that word.
that Brianna is bossy, and this is a word that is used to describe her quite a lot by a lot of people who know her. And so, like, there's, of course, they do the like super clip montage of all the times that she's ever like asked him to do anything or like shared her opinion, and you know, that story could be easy to tell, I think, for anyone. But how do you think they're handling that, and how do you think Vincent is perceiving that?
I mean, they definitely talked about it. It seems like that pillow talk where we didn't get to hear any of it. We just saw Brianna turn the light off after saying, "I was in room with you today." Like, all of that was probably that conversation about someone's like Brianna's being a little bossy. Vincent doesn't want to be rushed. Like, where he annoyed, like, whatever it was. But at least they're talking about it. That was pretty cool to see. Hey,
Yeah.
we're going to be upfront and honest. I would like to see a little more, though, of how upfront are being. I don't know. Something kind of tells me that there's more to that story, though, because it just seems when we hear them talking, maybe it's just like for the cameras, like they don't want the public in their business like that.
Mm.
But it seems to be, I don't know. It just like a little bit like, hey, like I gotta acknowledge a little bit kind of thing, but like I don't want to acknowledge it fully. That's kind of where.
You think they're like holding stuff back about it?
Yeah, because like the reason I say is because when they talked about the little argument, so you call it, when they got a little upset about each other, it was almost like, oh my gosh, like we had a little argument, like this is such a bad thing. Like, oh, I want to like dance around the subject and not say that it was a really bad thing, but like, hey, you're a married couple, so what if you argue? I guarantee you this will not be the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just more scary because it's the first. Because it's like, oh no, like you overthink it. It's like, we're already butting heads and it's only been however many days. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you gotta get good at arguing, get good at discussing hard stuff.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think this is a big enough thing that they won't stay together.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping for the show's sake, because if like they're the only one that I see staying together, so if they don't, they're going to be 0 for 5. That's painful. I don't think they've ever had a season. Mm-hmm.
You don't think anyone else is staying together?
Not even Eric and Virginia? We'll get to them later. Okay.
I could see them. No, you're right. Like, I could see them, like, yeah, like having drunk fights in many bars across the country. Well, okay, they're the surest thing that they have here this season.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think, so, like you said, we're trying to, like, read between the lines, and I think they themselves, like, I think he's trying to articulate why he finds this problematic, and then she's like she's taking this in differently, so like it could be editing, but what he said and what she took from that were two different things. And I know that obviously this happens, but it seemed like he was more like, hey, like what I was getting from him was, you're like don't tell me how to brush my teeth and floss. Like, I can, like, like small things like that. Let me live my life. And then she heard, you want me to be submissive and, like, be a completely different person. And so I'm hoping that this doesn't turn into, I hope they address it, and it's fine for them overall. But from the guy's perspective, I do think, and this could be editing, but it's just annoying. Like, I don't know if I would say, like, break up with her or anything like that, but, like, really? You're gonna tell him how to brush his teeth? Like, it's just little things like that. Like, if your brother or sister was like that, you'd be like, shut up, leave me alone. Like, it feels like no one has, like, told her, hey, back off. Like, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
And, like, how you get dressed and get ready to go to things, like, that is people are very different with that. And he seems to be a little bit more slower on that. I know Ashley and I have had sort of kind of similar conversations, but, like, I think we've gotten to the point where it's like, as long as it gets done, like, we're not gonna comment on the way the other person's doing it. And I think they just haven't gotten there yet. Like, she feels like, oh, if you're not doing it this way, it's not gonna get done. It's like, like, he's a grown person, he has his own business, like, he has accomplished stuff, he's fine, he's not personal. A child.
This is personal for you and me.
I think so. I don't
This
think
is
so.
no. You're talking about he's got a business. He's a grown ass man. He
Well,
can
but he
build his
does.
own stuff. Yeah. No. I'm just the more we're talking about this, the more I'm just like, oh my god, I'm Brianna.
It's
And
hitting a little close
look,
to home.
I can tell you that I
I
can.
legitimately wasn't throwing out
Oh,
anything.
I know. No, no, no. I'm just starting to see it now that we're like focusing on it. I'm not throwing any
Okay.
shots here. I think I understand where Brianna's coming from, and I can understand like that line of thinking where again the very black and white thing of like not really realizing that your way is just one way and there is no best way. And so from little things to big things, the way that she likes to be more on time and like Vincent doesn't like to be rushed. Like that's us. That is Agu and I. Like I am anal about being on time, and it's just like that's my family culture, whatever. And that's like been a thing that we've honestly worked through a lot, and a lot of it has been me just accepting that I can't make Agu do anything he doesn't want to do, nor should I. But like, like I'm not. Yeah, it's just a thing of meeting the other person where they are and deciding on like what's really important. And like for me, like I could see like she's just kind of in that habit and in that mode, and she
Yeah.
doesn't they're still so new, she doesn't realize that it's like off-putting. She doesn't realize how she's coming across. And I think if she were just to like reflect on that a little bit and be like, what would it feel like if I were in the bathroom and he was just like, are you gonna floss? Like, how often do you floss? Do you brush your teeth a lot? Like that you would be like, well, why are you saying these things to me? Do you think I'm not going to take care of my mouth? Like what like, what are you worried about here? Like you want to see my
Yeah.
dental records? Like what what are we trying to do?
Just get really petty with it and just like pull out dental records and be like, all right, here's my x-rays. Let's see your teeth. Oh, you got a cavity, huh?
See those molars, huh? But it kind of gets into a territory of what she brought up herself was I don't want to people to feel like I'm being disrespectful to them. And I think that's where it gets really tricky, because I think Vincent feels like he's being controlled when there's no need for her to be involved in those things. Like that energy can be redirected into much more productive and great areas. So I think it's just like they just need to kind of settle into it. And I think for her, and this is just me also talking about my own experience, is you have to learn to not take things personally. That like something can make you feel some type of way. It doesn't mean that the person did the thing in order to make you feel that way. Like they're not doing it because they're like trying to take advantage of you or because whatever. It's just they're completely in a different lane looking at it from a different angle, and that's fine, and that can just be what it is. So
And it, like she definitely has talked about a couple of times now, like I know I'm bossy. I've been told my family in the ceremony, but like in general she just knows that. And I think sometimes she doesn't realize when she's doing it. So like something as little as, hey, you're gonna pick that soap off the ground, right? Like I don't think she realizes like the little comments still can be annoying when there's like 50 of them, you know?
yeah.
And so she's just like, I don't, and like into her mind, she, like you mentioned, she's just like doing what she normally does. It's just a small little comment. What's the harm in a small little comment? No big deal. You know, she's not like wagging her finger and yelling at him to, you know, get in line. It's just, she's just communicating. And so I think like for her, it's going to take a little more of a, like a pause. Be like, oh, I get it. Like, this is what it looks like. You know what I mean? To come off that way. So.
And it also becomes a filter of, and this is again from me, is this important? Is this worth it? If, you know, there's, you know, one thing sitting out and then I put it away because I like things to be tidy. Is that worth it to bring up? Absolutely not. Like I'm planning on being with that guy until I'm old and gray and just a little lump of a person. And so like putting away a water bottle one time,
That's a lot of shrinking going on. Like how short are
I'm a
we
tall
talking?
person too. Like I'm gonna get, going off of my grandma who is 90, she is like pretty much half my height at this point.
But she wasn't
just keeps
tall to
shrinking.
begin. She wasn't like super tall to begin
She was never
with,
tall?
right?
No, no, but she just kept going. just
You know.
shrinking down.
She just like kept shrinking.
Yeah,
I can
my
hold her in the
grandma's
palm of my hand. It's amazing.
my grandma's shrinking too. It's a weird. I think I forget what it's called. Like your bones are like fracturing or something, and you get shorter.
Sounds painful.
It does sound painful, right? But I guess we're using ourselves here as a. I didn't realize how you're right. It is sort of echoing stuff that we've gone through. I think.
Yeah, but like early in our relationship, this was the kind of stuff we talked about a lot, and like
Yeah, for sure.
caused a lot of
Definitely.
conflict. And now a lot of those things aren't issues anymore because we approach it differently.
Yes, I think using ourselves as our situation. I think in the beginning, like I said, it was a lot of conflict. I do think if you know you're dealing with someone who comes at things differently, like a lot of the times when we would have conversations about this, um, like I was constantly making it clear that I wasn't attacking you or anything. Like this was just like this wasn't something that was a bigger issue. Like this was just that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It
I
wasn't
think
personal.
it wasn't personal. And I think he's going to have to do that a little bit more of
Yeah.
like, hey, this isn't personal. I just like I love you. I love everything. Well, I guess he doesn't say that yet, but like I really like what we have here. This is a great relationship. I just don't like it when you tell me to floss. Like I have my own way of floss. Like you have to like make it super clear that
Yeah.
you're not. This isn't a because naturally the other person is going to feel like you're dropping a hint, and it's not like they're gonna think that this is a bigger issue, and you just don't want to say that. And I think for us that was a big reason why it didn't turn into a bigger issue of like you and me constantly being like, okay, hey, like we're fine. This is great. I just like the fact that you're super stressed about this, and we're still 5 minutes early. Like it's like stuff like that. It's like just being able to, yeah, make it clear that's not a larger issue. All that said, I do think on her side, the fact like, and I do this too. Like I know my issues, and I will joke around about them. That doesn't mean that you don't have an issue. So like you and all your friends and family saying, oh, you're bossy, that's just the way she is. Like that's something you can fix. That's something you can work on. Like I have my things where I'm like, oh, that's just the way I am. But like, no, I can fix those things. I can address those things. I am conscious and have the ability to do so. So why not try to change it? And it's just my bossy thing. It's just like that no one wants that. Like workers, coworkers, family, like naturally people will just push you away if you're like that. Like he's not going to do that because he's married to you. But like some friends, some coworkers will be like, oh, I'm just not going to do a meeting with that person. I'm just going to try to avoid that person. So I think it could bite her in different ways. But all that being said, I think they like each other a lot. I think the attraction is there. I think they agree on so much that that's not going to be enough to stop them. But
I'm curious, Mabel, with the bossy word and it being about a woman. Did that come up for you at all, of like that being a descriptor of her that's so negative?
Yes and no. I do think maybe it's a little more like heightened awareness around it to point it out. But I also don't think that it's like completely misplaced either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I get she is probably going to be a little more susceptible to being called bossy because she's a minority woman. But there are like, especially when like even like the little clips they're showing us, there are moments where I'm like you really are bossy. And I'm also not like completely surprised either, because I come from a family of very bossy women, and it's not a surprise to me to be like, oh, in the relationship, like who's the bossy one? I got it. Like, so to like see this. So I definitely did wonder that for a little bit though.
Yeah. Yeah, because it just makes me wonder if like we saw the same behavior and like the roles were reversed. If it was Vincent we're talking about, like, oh, he's bossy. I think then with men it almost becomes more of like a, oh, he's controlling kind of slant.
Yeah.
But it could also be, especially in like a work environment, seen as a positive where her exhibiting the same behavior in the work environment is like you're saying, she's a minority woman, like whether or not people are understanding that they're coming from a place of bias, they might see that as like you're not acting in your place. And that could have all sorts of like really subtle and not so subtle repercussions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think that like she's a particular kind of like when they keep talking about bossy, it's a lot of it seems to be around one thing, and it's being particular. Like, pick up the soap, floss, like go into like little things where I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood, but like we haven't heard her be bossy about his career yet. You know what I mean? We haven't heard her be bossy about like, don't put that shirt on, like, hey, don't act that way. You know, like it seems to be bossiness kind of thing centered around maybe being particular about like what you're talking about, Ashley, like how things may be orderly in their space, their shared space.
Yeah, I feel like she talked about that too in the beginning, that she likes her apartment or whatever to be a certain way, and that she likes people to kind of keep it tidy if they're going to be in her space or whatever. So again, that's a big adjustment if you're used to living on your own and having things exactly how you like. You're sharing your life with a whole other person. Now you got to rethink all of that. Like, it's not yours anymore. It's both of yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there's some stuff to learn.
Yeah. Yes. Also, he could just be messy and like gross, but it's too early, so I think that's not true. But it is. I mean, I've had some roommates where I'm like, oh, you just nasty. The whole house is gross. All right, cool.
No.
Cool. Paige and Christopher, or Christian, whatever his whatever it's short for. The young man is the worst, I would say. Okay, but all jokes aside, this was so rough. Like, this episode with him was a mixture of like just cringing, severe cringing, and then being like, you know what, I'm kind of on your side, and this feels weird to be on your side because you're the worst, and then proceeded to not be on his side because he was acting like a child. So that was like, for me, I think the emotions I went through with this. And then with Paige, I just feel bad, as I think that's basically how every episode goes at this point now. So where do we start? Do you guys want to just go straight into the
ATVs first?
ATVs conversation?
That whole thing.
I don't know where to
Okay.
start either. It was just chaos. It felt like a lot of like they're all in this. It just felt weird because it's like everyone's kind of upset, but then they're like strapped into an ATV and just like being jostled all over the place, mad and being shaken. And then they get to this place and then are just kind of set up so perfectly with the ATVs in the background. And then we have like this sort of confrontation with Virginia, kind of Eric and Clara against Chris, and asking him a lot of questions about how he's going to be handling everything with his relationship with Paige and this new child, and what's he going to do about the ex, and asking a lot of really big questions, and everyone was definitely getting very emotional. My feeling on it was like there were certainly times I was like, I don't like, if I were Chris, I would be upset too. Like, this big thing has happened, and like you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and you're like not handling it well and everyone's pointing out how you're not handling it well, not to justify any of his behavior, but like
No.
of course you're going to be upset. And I think Virginia and Clara felt like they were looking out for Paige and trying
Mm-hmm.
to be like an ally to her in some way. I'm not sure they were as successful at that as they maybe thought they were. Um, so yeah, how did you think
Yeah.
that situation went?
I was like, when they first started the conversation, in my mind, I was like, all right, they're going to ATVs. They're gonna have fun. They're just gonna let loose, and they're gonna move on from all the mess that is,
Hmm.
their relationship right now. And I was like, okay. But then they all like, so it was first Clara and Virginia talking to Chris out, like sitting on the ATVs, and then it kind of just like turned into the conversation again about, hey Chris, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna handle it? And I was just like, so this has been a day since we talked about it again. Like, where is this coming from? You already really exhausted the topic, and it led into an argument the last time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you bringing it up again? And I don't know exactly who brought it up, how, but like, it just seemed like, all right, you can probably find other things to talk about. I'm sure you don't even know, his favorite hobby. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can like find anything else to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then
Talk to him about designer shoes. He likes talking about
so
that.
he loves
He'll
his
list off
material
all the
things.
kinds he has. It'll take an
You
hour.
like Birkin bags, Birkin shoes,
Birkenstock?
Hermes,
Nope.
Hermes,
That the dog
Birkenstock.
cannot pee on his shoes. He made that very clear.
Oh my god.
Oh my.
I
The
was a
dog
little
he's
annoyed
not
at
going to care for, but she's going to care for his
Right.
child.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris.
Well,
Chris.
so do we want to keep talking about
Chris.
that since I just like derailed us a little bit with that
Yeah,
comment?
it's
Or
fine.
Uh, before we switch over to that, because there's so much, but so the ATV conversation, I think everybody was wrong. Everybody was wrong in the situation. So Chris, how he was wrong, I get that you don't want to talk about this. You're on a reality TV show. You're on a reality TV show. They're going to ask this. Like, I've read some things where people are like, "Oh my gosh, look at they're being too nosy." I guarantee you, or I have a strong inkling that the producers are like, "Hey, could you talk about each other's relationships?"
There,
And then that's what
there's a
happened.
producer behind the
Like,
camera with a big cue card that says, "Ask about the baby." Virginia's like, "Okay, got it."
right.
got it. And her like, "All right, got it. Let's do it."
Wow.
That's her drunk voice. Um, so I, he is definitely wrong. And then after that, like they were annoying, and I'm with you. They were being annoying, and they should kind of butt out. But then when after that ATV scene where he's like, "I am going to make this car ride a living hell." You
So
thought it was
childish.
sweet?
Oh.
Hilarious. Absolutely like
That
childish.
that
Hilarious.
honestly got me. I was
So funny.
all right. I want to watch that scene again. That was just the best.
Oh my gosh. And like the level of like I think his strategy was I'm going to insult Virginia over and over again because I can't fight her. I don't want to do that. But I'm going to insult her so much that her partner, Eric, is going to have to do something and I can beat him. And like he knows that he can beat him in a
Is
fight.
this guy
And Eric
logic?
knows that he can beat him. Oh yeah,
Oh
this
my
is 100%
god.
guy
Oh
logic.
my god.
So it's like I am going to like I want to fight somebody, but I can't fight you. So I will insult you until you're a man and come over there, and then I will then proceed to say, "What are you gonna do?" And then Eric is like, we just need to end." It's like I get it, man. I get it. He's bigger. It's a lot, but pull your lady back and be like, "Hey, let's do
Mm-mm.
this later." So I think he's definitely wrong. Um, I think Virginia, sorry, yeah, Virginia and Clara are wrong, but they're not as wrong as what a lot of people are saying. So, like, some of the comments I saw were like, they got big Karen energy from them, which is kind of funny. It's a very funny line. but I don't think that's the case. Just because we know we've seen this show. Like, if you've watched the show, you know there's normally one person that the producers will say, "Hey, can you ask them about this?" And like last season, that was um,
Brandon.
uh, oh shoot, what's his name?
What?
Woody and Amani. Like Woody and
Mhm.
Amani would like be on the table and be like, "Hey, Henry, how do you feel about about
How do you feel
Olivia?"
about
And
Claire?
like
He's
they
like, I
were
have no
Christina?
idea. Who is that? Oh my
Christina. Oh my
god.
goodness, killing
We
it with
talked
the
about
names.
them for weeks. I don't get.
Gone,
Too many
We need
names.
gone.
cue cards for Agu. Like, these are their names.
Oh, it'd be so
I love you,
nice,
hun, but
but like,
wow.
oh, it's a struggle. It's really bad. Um, and I think people are forgetting that. So like they're like, "How dare she ask?" I'm like, "You've seen 12 seasons of this show. They always that's what they do." And like the line where he's like, "We're not friends. I don't know you. Why are you acting like?" And that's hilarious. He's right. But every season they do this. Like they're like, "You know what?" Like the Woody and Amani again. He's like, "I just want to make sure Henry's okay." It's like you just met him
Yeah.
like a week ago. Calm the fuck down, okay? You don't know each other like that. So it's funny that he's like calling it out because we constantly see this and everybody plays along. And so a little part of me, I love this show, but I enjoy that because it's just meta in a cool way. And I think people are like reading into it too much. They're like, Karen, and there's some Karen energy with them. Like they're just, the producers told them, and she's probably a little tipsy and asked the question in a very clunky way.
Yeah.
Um, Her joke about, "Oh, is the baby yours?" That's the thing I think that he's upset
Mine
about, and
still.
he has every right to be upset about that. That's not, wow, funny. I laughed. That's not okay. You can't, if
Mm-hmm.
someone just says, "My ex-fiance is pregnant," you don't go, "Is it yours?" That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he has every right to be angry, and I have a feeling that's what he's angry about. Um, okay.
Is that all your feelings?
Hopefully,
You good?
hopefully, I think I got all my feelings out
Mm-hmm.
on that.
So later, they have dinner, and Chris goes on his apology tour and has a whole speech about how he hasn't been acting like a man of God, or however he phrased it.
Yeah.
Basically, was trying to apologize to the group for his behavior and publicly apologize to Paige for his behavior as a husband, which, like, I was trying to pay attention to how she was reacting to it because I was like, how does she feel about this? Because I could give two hecks about how Chris is feeling. Like, Chris or Paige has been put into this just kind of for no reason. It's just kind of happened to her, happened around her.
Yeah.
She's being affected severely, and everyone's focused on attacking Chris. Like, my instinct would be much more about, like, let's do what Paige needs. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, first of all, like, what did you think of his apology to the group? And let's make a note here that Eric and Virginia have not yet arrived.
There's not been a volcano gone off yet.
Oh gosh.
I mean, during his apologies, like there were parts of it that seemed genuine, public apology, and I don't know how I feel about public apologies. It like seems a little more for the crowd than for that person, but um,
Mm.
and then in his apology, he's even saying like confirmation for himself, like I can't always control what people say to me. I can only, and it's like, so are you making jabs while at the same time trying to apologize? And like,
Mm.
are you trying to stir the pot? Like, I don't know if that was his way of explaining his actions, but it definitely didn't give to the authenticity of the apology, I think, because it just seemed like a little bit of a write off.
Yeah. I think the timing was very unfortunate. I wonder if he would have still apologized if they didn't show up late and tipsy. Um, I don't know if they're tipsy, that's mean, but if they showed up late, um, and like I think like even Ryan, you could tell when like the fight was like starting to happen. Ryan's like, okay, let's
Please.
stop this. Okay, so he was in the process of
Mm-hmm.
apologizing,
Mm-hmm.
and like a part of me was like, oh, they finally, okay, they stopped it, and then Eric kept on talking, and Chris is like,
Yes, please.
oh, okay, no, 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 tell me how you feel. I was just like, oh gosh, we're back into this
Right.
again.
That didn't do anything.
Um,
Like when, so I was like looking around. I didn't realize at first that Eric and Virginia hadn't been at the table yet. And so I was
same.
like, oh, maybe he's like going around the table. And then I realized they were there. He's like,
Yeah.
oh,
You're like, where
they're
are they?
definitely not getting an apology.
See them.
Oh
And they're just like
gosh.
rolling down the stairs, giggling.
Right. And he's like, all right, what's the topic? I don't want to apologize.
Oh man. The line of I'm going to make this car ride hell might be one of my favorites of the season so far. It's just
I thought
and like just it's so great.
that was like mirror image of Brandon from season 10, I think, where he's like, watch
Yeah.
me. Like, you started this. You're gonna,
Look
and
what
it's
I
like,
can do.
and it's in a van. It's in the van.
It is
It's just like,
it's these vans.
yeah,
These vans, you
yeah,
can't trust
Vance,
them.
it just feels to be like when everyone, I think there's some truth to
Uh,
when someone gets like really, really upset, you see how they were as a kid when they were really
Mhm.
upset. And I feel like when, I feel like Chris was more of the acting out type and Eric was more of the acting out type. And it just, and Ryan was clearly the mediator. Vincent was clearly the
mhm.
bodyguard that kept everyone safe while they were still mad. Like, and you know, the
And
girls
Jacob's there as
never
well.
had to fight in their life. So they're just like, they say whatever they want. And oh, it was really
Yeah.
interesting to see all of that play out. Because it's just like, at a certain point they were all just making noise, like you couldn't pick out what anyone was saying. Everyone's just
Mm.
like reacting to what they
Yeah.
said 1 minute ago, and like we're all just like there's nowhere to go from there. Like, what do you expect to happen? What is the
Yeah.
outcome that you want? You want the other one to be like, oh my god, you're right, I'm so sorry. Like, nothing is going to come down from that. You have to be the
Mm-mm.
one, like the whole Jacob spiel I had earlier about like if either one of them was talking the way Jacob does about like his feelings about how Haley hurt his feelings because she went off without him or whatever, like that wouldn't have worked because you can't yell over someone like that. They're just going to
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to meet you there. So eventually you just kind of come down. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just pointless to me. Like we're all mad for nothing. Nothing's resolved. We're just making everything worse. Like just walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah, that's true. But like even I don't I was kind of so at the table, right? Like everyone was quiet. It seemed like there was just, pretend nothing happened kind of thing and just move on. And then, he started to apologize. It kind of made me think though that Eric showed up like I don't care what, like, and I think it was like
Mm.
Ryan that maybe said that. I can't remember who. But someone like even pointed this out. He wasn't there listening to what he was joining because you also showed up late, dude. Like you entered a situation that's already occurring. Maybe take note of like what's going on before you kind of like give your 2 cents. But he didn't come there with that idea. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
I have an agenda and I'm gonna do
He
what I
came in
can
hot.
do.
Yeah. But like from Eric's perspective, we kind of saw her on Virginia's one-on-one, like she felt aggrieved, and I'm sure she vocalized that too. I'm sounding very professional, but like she was upset,
That he
and
didn't defend
she.
her like right away or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know. I don't even know if she said that, but like I think she was. She probably said like I'm upset. I've never had like she said like a man has never talked to me that way before. Like she was saying all those things where if he didn't say something, like I think he felt like it was his duty to say something as the man, blah blah blah. So he came into that, yeah, like you said, he came into that conversation hot. Um,
Yeah, but that's more about him protecting his manhood than him like
Yeah.
being a good
yeah,
partner or even like resolving conflict with a kind of friend acquaintance. Like
Seriously.
the motivation for me, I'm like, I don't give a shit about your how confident you are about your manhood. Like,
Right.
be a good person.
Right.
Also, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just, I, I went like on a little rant, so I'm trying not to talk too much
You're
now.
fine.
But I do think Chris is dealing with a lot. If what he said is true and he's just finding this out, that's a lot to go through. And his point of, so one of the scenes, he's like, "What do you mean, man up? I told her about this. That's me manning up." Yes, in a sense, because it has been so short, but like that's the bare minimum you can do is to tell her about this. I think the where I get confused is so we know how crappy Chris is because we see the one-on-ones, we see the scenes with them together. I wonder how much the other cast members know about these details. I wonder what do they know? Do they only like have they only seen the scene where he told everyone about it and then that's it? Like, do they know that he doesn't want to like walk her dog even though he has a baby? Like all the stuff that like we know that we're like you're the worst. I wonder if they know that. So if they don't know that and he knows that and all they know is he has a child from his ex-fiance, that could have happened to any of them. If you're doing this without protection, even if you are with protection, there's a chance, right? So any of those people could have been in a similar situation. So if that's the case, I get why he's so upset. But if they do know all these other things, then it's he's totally in the wrong for being upset. Like if they know the like I don't find her attractive statement and all this other stuff. Like if they know that, then yeah, I think they have every right to want to make sure she's okay and try to get her opinion. So I think that's the thing where we just don't really have that information and I think that would change how I feel about it one way or the other, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. And we don't have that. Um,
I mean, I would assume though too, like where there's a lot of interaction between the couples that we don't see. So even like when they're setting up for scenes, when they're
yeah,
just grabbing food, or I'm sure like some of them, like we saw like Clara and Virginia having a conversation because Virginia was freaking out about the like I can't have guy friends now thing, and they were talking about it. Like I'm sure that is
yeah,
happening on many levels because it's a group of people you're gonna be spending time with, and you're gonna make friendships
yeah,
and stuff. So, I I would assume that this information is circulating. That there is also like other perceptions that they're getting of him through the time they're spending with him, through the time they're spending with Paige. Like they
yeah,
get the more of the background view than we ever will. And so I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant like to give Chris the benefit of the doubt after all of this because it's just like I don't know. I think
yeah,
everyone kind of handled it poorly, and to me, it's not. Like, it goes back to like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Like, if you're just trying to shame Chris in front of everyone, like he's got enough going on. That's not going to change the situation. That's not going to change his behavior. It's just going to create conflict, and like that's not helping anything. And I don't know. I'm curious if you guys were like at that dinner table during the apology tour and all of the like things that happen there, if you're like one of the people of the couples, whatever, like what would your instinct be when all that stuff is going down? It's like not your
Um,
relationship and all this stuff.
the first thing is that if I were as upset as Eric, I was always taught to praise in public, punish in private. And so I would have at least asked to pull him aside first to be like, hey, I don't want to
yeah,
cause a larger scene. There's, something I still want to talk to you about and I still feel like we could address, but because like you also put him on the defense. Like it's literally an attack. And now he's in front of everybody. Like, he's going to want to defend himself at least a little bit. So I think, like, definitely if I felt like I needed to say something, I would have wanted to show up, pull him aside before we got started to be like, hey, I'd like to have a good dinner. I don't want this to be some sort of unsaid thing between us and awkward and whatever. I want to put it behind us. And then I probably would have done, what Clara was doing, honestly. Like, hey, if you want an apology, sure, but it didn't sound like she really, like, she would have been indifferent. It seemed like one way or another if she got an apology or not.
Yeah.
And then just, like, it's, I mean, you're really not long-time friends that you know each other that well. Just, like, move past it. It's not even your business. It's not your relationship. It's not your fiance's baby. It's not your partner's fiance's baby. You have no idea what Paige wants because everyone keeps saying they have no idea what Paige wants. They just feel a need to stand up for her. And it's like, you're projecting what you would want to happen on some other two people you know nothing about. And so, like, I probably would have just stayed out of it.
How about you, Agu?
Yeah, I definitely would have stayed out of it. My personal rule, so like in college, I had roommates and friends that I live with, and just a, a, like a good group, I guess, of people. And there were some people in our group where they and their partner would constantly fight and then get back together and then constantly fight and then get back together. And if you were the person to like hop in, when they get back together, now you're the bad guy. Like it's not. I think it's very difficult to get into the middle of something like that because you don't have all the information, right? Like you're not the one in the relationship. And so, yeah, personally, I would mind my own business, and I get that they're on a show and it's going to be a talking point, and I imagine that's part of the stuff that happened. But like, if you really like, when I think back to that scene, Brianna and Vincent didn't say anything. Like they were
Exactly.
pretty quiet.
But they were also being
Ryan was
supportive in
pretty
the
quiet.
background in private,
Yeah.
the way that you're talking about, Mabel.
Yeah, yeah,
Where like they're being that
yeah.
real
Like,
support system when no one else is really around.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And actually seeing like Vincent's conversation with Chris and how he was like, yeah, no, like we talked about we weren't gonna. It came across as if they had talked about, all right, let's not talk about this on camera, and Eric and Virginia broke that rule. Who knows if that's true or not, but the fact that like he said that to him, and maybe he was just trying to calm him down, but I think something like this, you gotta let them handle it. Now, if this was if you're seeing that person physically abuse the other person, of course, definitely, like, I think that's a different conversation. So I'm not saying like you see him knocking the other person out, don't do anything, don't say anything. Hopefully I don't come across as saying that, but um, at this point, it's just like you don't have enough information. Just let them do their thing. Um, what do you think, Ashley? What would you do, Ashley?
I think if I were at that table when things started escalating, I would probably be along the lines of what Ryan did. I tend to be that mediator of trying to like at least get everyone on the same page of like, just so you know, he just apologized, and like try to diffuse as much as possible. And if that doesn't work, then probably just leave because it just doesn't feel like a space that I would want to be in. But I think
Yeah.
also my instinct would, like I was saying before, is like, why are we focusing on Chris so much? Like, I appreciate that everyone's instinct is to kind of go for him and like kind of share all their feelings about how they feel like he's doing as a person in this situation. But I think it's much more important to focus on Paige and see how she's dealing with it, because Paige is dealing with a bad situation that came up in this Married at First Sight experiment. Chris is dealing with his personal life problems that have been brought into this. So to me, there's much more room to be like, hey, Paige, like, how are you doing? Do you want me to go fuck off? I can leave. Or like I can sit here and just listen to you. Or we can sit and look at cat videos for a minute. Or like, how can I support you? Do you want me to support you? That's fine. Like, just kind of check in with her and try to like be there for her if she wants or needs that. Like, she might not.
Yeah.
And let it be her choice and actually listen to her. It feels
Yeah, I don't
like
think anyone's
everyone's
doing that right now.
talking around her, talking at her, talking for her.
Yeah.
No one's listening to Paige. No one's asking Paige anything. And like, it could just be an editing thing where we don't see those conversations. I'm sure parts of that are happening, but why aren't we focusing on her? Why isn't she the priority? So that's where I would go with it, you know, and just try to be a good friend if she wanted that. And if not, then just be like, all right, I'm here if you ever need me, and leave it. But it just gets hard because it's like obviously something that, because it's a show, they're going to make these kind of conversations happen in some way on camera, which exacerbates it and then perpetuates the issues. And you're never going to get resolution this way. So
No.
Yeah.
like stressed out just thinking about that conversation again. I'm just like, again, we all
But
get
then what
along.
about
It
the
was
end
such a
of the trip for them? Because when they were packing, it seemed like, hey, they were maybe coming around a little bit. Paige like keeps like defending him, really being like, even in the van, leaning over the seat and being like, hey, like, you know, cool it a little bit. And then when they pack, she asks him, what are you thinking about? Have you two talked about like what do you want to happen with the baby? And what did he say? I don't want another man raising my child. And she was like, okay, so what does that mean? And he was like, well, we have talked about getting back together. Or I can't remember if she asked it and he answered, but like he eventually admitted it, that they had talked about getting back together. And she walks out, and then I was really glad. I was like, yes, leave him. I was, and then she came back, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean, her suitcase was there, so
Right.
she had
She
to
had clothes.
before she slammed the door on him and left. Yeah,
Slam the door. All right, I gotta be so sick. I gotta come back.
he just seems so blissfully unaware of how his like I think on one hand it's good that he's being super brutally transparent about what's going on, because at least it gives her full information about the situation so she can make a decision for herself. But he also is not taking into account her feelings at all. It's like that is not even like a level of like a little checkpoint of like, all right, I'm about to say this thing. Like, how would Paige feel if I said this thing? And then how might I adjust that? You know, it's just like blurting out these really hurtful, really big things over and over and over and over.
So this is where, well, you're right. Like Paige, I think the thing I got from this episode was like Paige is an amazing partner, and I really hope she finds her person. Just she's been amazing. She's been amazing. Like during that scene in the car, like she was trying to diffuse the situation. During the apology, like it feels like, obviously I don't know for certain, but it feels like she talked to him and said, "Hey, this isn't okay. Like we need to correct this." And he listened, and you know, it seems like they prayed or they did something, and now they, you know, he reached that conclusion and he was apologizing. Like she has been just amazing this entire episode. And that ending scene, I think you're right. Like that was just that was very wild to see. I think so. I mentioned this last episode, and I still feel this way. Chris wants to go back with his fiance, and I think because of how this has happened, like he was already iffy on the relationship. Like we know this. didn't find her attractive and wasn't anticipating someone like her and blah blah blah. And I think that's ridiculous. I think she's beautiful, but we know this. And then you find out that your ex-fiance is 6 weeks pregnant. I don't I don't know who would be in that situation who wouldn't consider going back with their
Right. Right. Exactly.
fiance. Like, you cared about this person enough to get engaged, so clearly there's some feelings there. And now he talked about how kids is the legacy and
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah. So he clearly is finds that important in terms of raising his kids. So of course he's going to feel this way. And the main thing that I'm angry with him is that he isn't cutting it off with Paige faster. Like, let her go. Let her, you know that this isn't the relationship for you. Like, you can be the bad guy for 5 minutes and break it off, and then she can then go on and live the rest of her life and find her person. And you can go back to your ex-fiance and child. Like, that's where I get upset. I know a lot of people are upset at him for many reasons, but I think that's the thing for me where I'm like, I get it. If I was him in that situation, I wouldn't be in that situation. But if I put myself in that situation, I would probably want to go back. I would. If you, I find uh, kiddos very important, and I would want to make it work. And I know there are ways to co-parent, and I know many people are doing that, and that's a thing that is more and more common. But if the person would have me, I would 100% try to go back just for the kid. So I understand why he's doing that, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Um, I just think him not breaking up is the bad part.
One thing too I noticed
Um,
when he was saying at the end to her was that um, apparently there was some point where they blocked each other. Chris and his ex fiance, they had
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that he was blocked on her phone and she was blocked on his phone or whatever. And then
yeah.
they were unblocked, and then this phone call came. And I'm thinking back to when the wedding night happened and she is unattractive in his eyes. And then he unblocks his ex fiance and finds out that she's pregnant. Like,
Mhm.
it's just a little bit of a sketchy timing for me to be like, wait, so maybe
Yeah.
she didn't call you out of the blue, because if she did call you out of the blue, you wouldn't have known because you blocked her on your phone, apparently. And then after you get married, you unblock her and you have this conversation with her. Think about going back with her again after you think your wife is not that attractive to you. Or, I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah.
I know.
He's the worst.
He's
He's
the
the worst.
worst. That part
seriously.
Yeah.
drives me crazy because we're never really gonna know for sure all of the details of how things happen. So I'm just kind of like, I mean, I'll take you at your word, but it doesn't seem super solid. Like I'm kind of
No.
squinting at it. There's a level of skepticism there for sure.
And
Um,
then the spiritual attraction.
and the spiritual attraction. This man, he's made such a big deal about like his attractiveness or
Uh,
whatever to Paige, how much he thinks she's attractive, and then you're gonna come in with a line about being spiritually attracted to her. Like that feels like such a weird diss almost. It's like I'm in love with your mind,
It's like
your
you don't want to say,
spirit.
yeah, like
it sounds like a R&B lyric. Like,
Like in theory that's a nice line, but you can't do that after you've said I don't, basically I don't like the outside, I like the inside. It just, I don't know, just no girl wants to hear that. Like, it just be honest. If it ain't working, fine, let's pack our bags and move on. But like,
yeah.
yeah.
And like, I have a lot of respect for Paige as well. She's handling this a lot better than I would. Like, I'm surprised she hasn't gone off on him yet, like on camera,
I
because
know.
that's why I can't be on reality TV. But like, then
plantains would have been flying. This is
like,
just a joke about Dominican
listen,
Republic.
I don't know if you've seen the shirt, but it's a very cool Dominican shirt. Um, so like she is so composed with all of this. And I don't know if she's just like checked out, which makes it easier to be composed, or what, or if she like really is composed. But then at the end, she's like smiling that he is giving her this kind of compliment that you're
Yeah.
too attractive. And I was like, please don't take
Mm-hmm.
it back because he says you're
Mm-hmm.
too attractive.
It's not all better now. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
And this is where he's the worst. Like this is where he's the worst. Like don't lead her back in, don't lead her on if you know you're not into
Yeah.
this. Like that's where like you're a dick for doing that. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like so many times, so many seasons, people just want to avoid conflict and then make it 10 times worse. And that kind of, it's what it feels like is going on here. Like he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but you're like the worst now because of
Mm-hmm.
it.
It reminds me of the Ron Swanson quote where it's like, "Don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing." Like, stop having your toes in both relationships and just make a decision and then kind of come to peace with that. Like, you can't. I understand there's going to be a period of time he needs to like figure out what he's going to do, but it feels like he's trying to like ride two bicycles at the same time and is just doing a terrible job. And like,
Right.
you're gonna get hurt. Yeah, they're gonna get hurt. Like, we're gonna have a lot of problems. Like, just gently put one of the bicycles down and leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Exactly. You have to leave it alone.
You have a little
Yeah.
bicycle now,
Yeah.
the tricycle to take care of.
Oh gosh. This analogy got
Weaving in
worse
to this
somehow.
analogy.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
tricycle.
I have a tricycle on
Riding
the
this
way
analogy home. But
with my ex-bicycle.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, Ryan and Clara.
yeah, I mean,
To
like
you.
they're pretty much keeping to themselves. They're all about only themselves, similar to Haley and Jacob. But
Yeah.
Eric and Virginia, I also don't like how much they're prying into other people's relationship. Almost like they had this entitled position of, oh, I need to care for you, and I'm your best friend, and I'm the person most invested in you. And it's like, who are you? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with them, just it feels like so much of their storylines just feels like people. Like if you I feel like a lot of my stories are like this. I swear I don't drink all the time. But like if you're at a bar and you're a little tipsy, like the amount of times I've had people like hug me like you're my best friend, man. Like you're awesome. Like I barely know the person. Like we had two conversations at the side of the bar. Like it feels like that's going on with her where like she's got all these feelings and she's always super close with everyone, even though like they don't really know
Yeah.
you like
Yeah.
that. And on his side, it feels like he's like, okay, my partner wants to have a good time during his honeymoon. I'm gonna join in, but he doesn't drink. He's not, and he mentioned it for his job. I'm very happy he doesn't. Like he's a
Thank you.
pilot. I'm happy that you typically are very sober. That's lovely. Please continue, sir. So, bearing that in mind, his tolerance level isn't as high. So, like, she's tipsy, but he is like
Messy.
falling asleep drunk. He's messy
yeah,
drunk.
he's
Yeah,
sorry. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
like that scene where they're like talking, he's like barely holding his eyes up,
Oh,
and
they
then
didn't even have to
are
like
you are
edit
you
that. They just left it as is,
no
and they just filmed the reactions of all the other guys. It was the best.
like they're going to talk, and he's just like, yeah, no, yeah, like you gotta do.
Exactly.
Like when you need your arm as a prop to keep you
Uh,
upright. It's time to go to bed. Time to go to
It's
bed.
time to go.
Call it, man. Call it. Tap out.
But
Tap
like
out.
he felt like he was making really good points. He was just like, no, no, man. Like I get it. I
And
get
I
it.
feel like he kept forgetting his points because he kept repeating them.
Yeah. Yeah. He just can't handle his, and that's fine. Like, if you're not I feel like if I drank that much now, I don't drink that much anymore. So I would be a
Mhm.
mess. And I get it.
And then, like,
But I think this is like I think he's going to realize this isn't for him when they get back. to the real
Yeah.
world. And I think she's already feeling that. Like it's the cutting, the editing they did where he's like, "No, everything is fine." And then they cut to her and she's like, "Yeah, so we have issues. We just haven't discussed it yet." Lovely. Editors, kudos. Well done. That was hilarious. But I think she also realizes that this just isn't the move for her. Um, and she's mentioned a few different times. I think they're like very different on the political side as well, and he seems to be okay with that, but she probably has issues with that. It seems like just she's constantly repeating that her sister is gay, and maybe it's just editing, but it feels like she's like, hey, just so you know, this is how I feel. This is how I
Yeah.
feel. Like it feels like she's trying to make it very
I don't get
clear.
why people are so
So
eager to out the people in their life all the time. They have to come out like, you ever notice this? If you like, I
yeah.
had one, like a friend of a friend who I hung out with for one day, and she was just like talking about her work and was like, yeah, my one coworker, she's a lesbian. She brings in the best cookies. And like that's all she wanted to say. And I was like, are you just trying to tell me you know a lesbian? Like, why?
Like I see
Sorry,
that
that's
as
just a
like
pet peeve of
similar to
mine.
like, oh, I have a black friend, so like
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm woke.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Did it. I'm good. Not racist. You can tell. Proof.
Racist over, racism done. Let's call it.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got it. Yeah. Yeah. I just that's hilarious though. She's a lesbian, but she makes great
Yeah, and
cookies.
I'm
Are they
like, you're
gay
just trying to
cookies?
tell me. It's just a
Are
big
they
pet peeve of
rainbow
mine.
cookies?
Uh, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Sorry, you need to
So
So yeah.
sidetrack us with
So
a.
right, Eric, and I agree. I mean, like I do kind of I see them lasting through the decision day just because like they have so much going for them. They've talked about their physical attraction. At least like he is, he's drinking. I mean, he's on vacation. He did mention when he gets back to work it's gonna be different. But like, hey, when they're in the
please do so.
God, please,
Fingers
please keep
crossed.
all of our
No one
our
fly
passwords.
ever.
Yeah. And so like he's just like going with it right now. He's trying to lean into who she is. Hey, she wants to drink, cool, let's have a drink. I mean, but like every single time almost it seems like he's kind of mentioning, hey, this is a concern that may pop up later for me. I'm trying to go with the flow now. She's like defensive and like, don't change me. I have a problem with that. I'm not okay with that. And it's like, whoa, now like he did not
Mm-hmm.
tell you to wake up and be a different person. He's just bringing up a possible concern. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think honestly, after this whole episode, I was just like, oh, I don't care about Eric and Virginia anymore. They just
Yeah, same.
feel very immature, like emotionally immature. Where I think it was when they were having breakfast in their hotel room the morning after the big like dinner fight with the whole group or whatever, and they're talking about it and just going over what happened. Like, no, he was totally like whatever, whatever, and it was the most like college or high school conversation I've ever heard coming from two grown ass adults, and I was just like, you guys aren't even
Hmm.
like this is I just they're I'm not here for this. Like I just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're not
Yeah.
even close to being at the like maturity and communication level to like really address this in a good way where it's going to be resolved and that you're going to learn from it. Like you're so set in
Yeah.
your opinions and like just really not sitting with it for a moment to be like, how did that go?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did I behave? Am I okay with that? Like, how did other
Mm-hmm.
people react to how I was behaving? Like, there's no sitting with it. And
Mm.
it's, I just, I felt okay about them before, but after this, I'm just like, I think I'll focus more on the other couples, if I'm being honest.
I'm 100% with you. Like they feel like the couple who like was just yelling at each other in the bar, and then they're like making out on the dance floor, and then they're like
And they
yelling
like
at each
spill their
other
drink on
again.
you as they're making out.
Yeah, and then you're
Lovely.
just like, you guys are gross. Like this is a dance floor. Why are you making out on the floor? This floor is
I just
sticky.
hate
Mm-hmm.
you. I'm
Gross.
not you.
Like I hate you. Leave me alone. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like it's just I don't care. And I think I'm with you. A lot of people are probably going to feel that way because it's just it's
Mm-hmm.
childish. It's not. There's no substance
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
surface
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're,
level.
but I mean, they're also kind of leaning into it like that. Like for them, it's like carefree to just like go with like the spectrum of their relationship a little bit. Um, and like we keep seeing examples of how this, I mean, she's also mentioned like she's had like daddy issues, and so and he also has this, I don't even know what to call it, but like he sometimes gets into this parent mode where he's like, I've been married before. I know what it's like, and I'm thinking like, wait, didn't you say your marriage was literally just for paper so that you two could live together on base? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so wait, you can't like use
Thank
marriage as
you.
no, it wasn't a real marriage, and then use marriage like no, it was a real marriage. Like, which one
Yep.
is it?
That's right. That's right.
Well, the fact, so he said that, and then she was like, "Oh, so how long were you married?" He said 6 years. I'm like, "That's not on paper marriage, sir. That's a real marriage. 6 years, like
That's a long
1 year,
relationship.
1 year, 2 years. Oh, okay. You guys just wanted to continue to date, and you were traveling, and it's very, it's not as uncommon. It's not as uncommon as you would think. I think a lot of people do that in that situation." 6 years, you guys were married. You guys were married. I don't want to hear that. No.
Yeah, it's hard to
So,
believe.
yeah, I'm
Like on
with
year
you.
6, they're both just like, "You want to hang out tonight? Like, you want to come over?" Whatever. I'm like, no, y'all were living together. Y'all were like, your lives were
Netflix and chill.
merged.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah.
Netflix and chilling. Year 6 of marriage, and it's just like, we don't want to chill
Yeah.
anymore. We'll break up.
Yeah. I do feel a little bad because I think he looks like all the stuff we're saying, childish, surface level, all this stuff. I think that's because he's trying to like placate like and connect with his partner. I think if he was paired with a different person, we would
It'd
be
bring out
seeing
a
a very
different
different
side.
side
Oh
of
Yeah,
yeah.
him.
I agree.
And with her too. Like I think if she was paired with someone who was maybe a little bit more of her perspective, we would view that as, oh, that's the funny couple. Oh, that's cool. They da da da.
Hmm.
And right now it just feels like
Like they're doing Jaeger bombs in the
it's
pool. Cool.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, they're definitely not staying together. Or they could. Oh, that would be
Ugh.
I
gross.
think they're gonna stay together.
I unfortunately do think so.
Oh,
Which again
no.
makes me mad because I'm like, I don't want to spend any time with them. So like, can we please just fast forward their
No.
scenes? That's mean. I'm just not really
No.
interested.
Yeah.
I do think she's gonna have to do the breaking up. I think he's like, yo, you're yeah, like he's not breaking this up. Like she has to be the one to say no more.
Yeah, maybe this is one of those couples
And
where
hopefully
like the
she
whole
does.
season you're like, why are you together? Why are you together? What's going on? And then on decision day they're just like, we're gonna do it, and then they stay together forever. This is gonna be a good
We
Mia
all
Beth
know
situation.
relationships like that though, where it's like, is this what you said?
Mm-hmm. You sure? You sure?
You,
You good?
you can leave. You
Wink,
know
wink,
you
wink
can
twice.
leave, right?
I'll start. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other big thoughts from this episode? This was a wild ride.
That's what I saw. It was a mess.
Ooh.
It was a mess. That's what the episode should have been called, a mess. A
It's a mess.
complete
Yeah.
mess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been a lot. Thank you for hanging in there with us as we have gone on a lot of tangents.
Yeah.
Editing this will be
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, please go join us on Instagram at Cup of Three Podcast. We post clips from this show, and we post a lot of memes and different things that are very funny. So please go check us out there. We are on both YouTube and podcast apps. And yeah, join us next time as we're covering episode 7. We'll see them moving back home and living together in these new places and quarantining together because we're still in a pandemic despite what it appears to be. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.